Hello everyone, welcome back to another Zwift race. Today we've entered into stage 3 of the Zwift Tour de France. I'm in the category C version of this race, but hopefully I'll move up to category B soon enough. Uh, Anyways, this is a 10-mile race which features 2 laps of the Champs-Élysées in Paris, which is one of the most famous parts of the Tour de France, typically a sprinting stage in the Tour de France, and it is shaping up to be the same here today. Uh, and that's because this is mainly a flat course. Besides the one hill that comes around 2/3 of the way through the lap, the course is relatively flat, which kind of makes it easier for the peloton to stay together, both in real racing and in Zwift. And you can kind of see that's what's happening so far in this race. As we get ready to approach the first hill, pretty much everyone's together. There hasn't been any attempts at moves. It's just been people rolling off the front and rolling off the back, as you can see has been happening to my character. But here we go, and we get into the first hill. As you can see, I've been able to pop up a little video of myself doing the Zwift race. And believe it or not, this is how I look when I'm relatively comfortable in my race. Not pushing too hard. I guess the green bar I think is zone 3, so it's, well below my FTP, so something I can hold for a while. But as we finally get started on this hill, the whole pack is together, so things are, very tight. And we're pushing a little bit more power here. Back up into the 300 range. It's something that, is pretty comfortable for me. I can hold for a while when we're in the low 300s, but when we get up into these 350s, it's something that I can hold for 5+ minutes. So it should be no real problem on this hill, but it is definitely something that's going to, tire the legs out a little bit. It's not so much burning a match, but it is, not comfortable. And you can see that's reflected by my heart rate, which is up in the top left-hand corner. We're up at 184, and we're about 6 minutes into the race, halfway through the hill. And the hill's doing what hills typically do in Zwift races. The thing is kind of stretched out. It's kind of gone single file, which means the pace is intensified. And I'm just trying to make sure that I don't accidentally fall to the back and get dropped, because that's the one thing that you absolutely want to make sure does not happen. Is you could still be with the group, but if you're in the back and the front of the group is 40 riders ahead of you, then you're dropped. So it looks like it's kind of a group of about 13 riders that have managed to form a small break at the front, and then it's me, and followed by the rest of the group. I'm not really too worried. I know that I could definitely bridge up, and that's kind of exactly what happens. As we get to the end of the hill, my momentum just carries me over. I keep pushing solid power, and next thing you know, I'm back at the front of the group. As we kind of get off the climb here, we still have a few guys in the front. The thing is still very stretched out, but I would say that it wasn't kind of a deciding hill, at least the first time around the course. Everyone's just, trying to settle back into their pace, recover a little bit, since nobody did decide to go make a heavy breakaway. There's one group of about 2 riders that's a second up the road, but, they just fall right back, as you can see is about to happen right here. So as we catch up to these guys who are, starting to break off the front, I just kind of wanted to mention that, in these flatter Zwift races, it kind of feels almost like you're trying to make sure that everything up until the sprint is just your warm-up. You're kind of trying to conserve as much energy as possible. And, this kind of makes for a little bit of a boring race. I mean, you have to definitely pay attention to make sure nobody accidentally slips off the front. But, I feel like, well, I haven't been in this scenario, but even if somebody is able to, make a break off the front, unless it's a decent group that's kind of working cohesively, you don't really have to worry about it too much, because, the power of the peloton on such a flat race, which is also, it's not long, but, over the course of 25 minutes, a group with a big draft is going to be able to kind of catch up to everyone. And on the first go through of the hill, you can see kind of nobody really did want to make a move. Maybe a few riders got dropped off the back, but that was just simply because they were weaker riders. In the front, it's pretty much still everyone, and you can see we're all really tightly bunched together as we come through, getting ready to start the second lap of the race here. And, as we get ready to approach the hill for the second time, we're coming up on just about 4 miles of racing left. So after the hill, we'll have about 3.5, 3 miles left, and, things will start to really, really heat up. But if someone was looking to make another move, the second hill would be a great time to do so, just because, instead of having 7, 8 miles to go alone or go with two other guys, you'll only have 3 miles left to go. It's much more manageable, especially if you don't think you have a good chance winning the bunch sprint. So as we get to this part of the race, I do kind of get up to the front, kind of trying to manage, keep my eyes out, make sure that nobody does accidentally break away. And again, you can kind of feel that the tension is higher the second time we're going up the hill. The power is a little bit higher, which kind of shows that it might not decide who wins the race, but it could definitely decide who won't win. And what I mean by that is, the riders who get dropped on this hill, they're definitely, out of it. But it doesn't really seem like there's going to be a group that breaks off the front, and goes solo from here. But yeah, so I'm pushing about 350, 370 watts on the, I guess, steeper portions of the climb. And I did pick up a bit earlier in the race a feather power-up, the power-up that is meant for climbing. And I'm going to pop it around just the middle portion of the hill here, just kind of, make sure that things are a little bit easier for this portion of the climb. It's not that it's particularly hard, but, just give myself every advantage I can, especially because I know that once we get to the top of the hill, as you can see the kind of green arch in the top right corner, we're going to pick up another power-up. And the featherweight power-up is great on the climbs, but, if I wait and save it to the end of the race, it's not really going to do me too much good on the flat section when we get to a sprint. So I'm going to, try and pick up one of the drafting power-ups or the blue power-ups at the top of the hill if we can. And yeah, so if you look at the mini-map, just like the first time through, things really did string out, but, it's even more extreme than it was the first time through. At this point, it doesn't look like there's a clear break, but, I'm sitting in 13th place, and, right over the crest of the hill, it actually looks like the guy behind me completely drops off. So it looks like we've got kind of the final selection here as we get to the roundabout, and it's going to be just 12, 11 of us fighting for this stage win. So it's nice to be in the reduced group. I think the most important thing is, making sure that you do make the final selection. It's not worth saving any energy for the final sprint if you're not going to be sprinting for the win. So even if you have to really, really exert yourself to get to that group, I think it's definitely worth doing so. Yeah, and so as we come around this turn and look at the mini-map, there's people just kind of spread out really everywhere. So this second time up the hill really did kind of decide a lot more than the first time around did. And, now that there's only less than 3 miles left, so probably, 8 or 9 minutes of racing since we're pushing about 28 miles per hour and still about 300 watts, so definitely pace has picked up. It's time to kind of start thinking about what we're going to do at the end of the race, kind of start trying to prepare myself for the sprint. So, save the legs, try and get into that blue zone in the top left-hand corner as much as I can, or try and bring the heart rate down a little bit. I was sitting in the mid-upper 180s, which is, not ideal. So try and bring it down to, low 170s if I can. Just keep an eye out, make sure that nobody accidentally tries to break off the front. And, this group of 11, 12 guys stays together until the end, and we are the final selection for this race. So we're going to be the group that's fighting for the stage win. And as we get into the final mile, we go down this little hill, and this guy, Karpakin, kind of starts to make a move. He went into the orange zone there for just a second as we started to go down the hill, really picked up some speed. And as we go up this little roller, it's very small, but it does get very steep. So you got to push some really strong power just to make sure that you stay in the group here. And, just really don't want to lose the race with 0.8 to go. So, kind of pushing a little bit more power than I would want to. It's kind of going to put some fatigue in the legs for the sprint here. But, as I said, you got to make sure you get to the sprint. That's the only thing that really matters. If you don't get to the sprint, it doesn't matter how you do. And I did pop the featherweight power-up that I picked up again. I realized that going up that little, very short climb, it would do me more good than it would to just save the power-up until the finish line, because it's not going to help too much in a sprint. And things are really strung out here, and it kind of, with half a mile left, I think I start to panic a little bit. I realize that I'm in the back of the group. It's not the great spot to be with such little time in the race. You know, the leaders of the race are a whole second ahead of me, so I kind of really got to make sure that I get myself into a better position. And I think that one thing that I really need to learn about Zwift racing is positioning, especially at the end of the races. Because here we are with, you know, half a mile left, and I'm pushing 450, 400 watts, and then I, you know, pick up so much speed on accident that I just completely roll off the front. And I'm not making any move here, but I'm accidentally separating myself, so I'm completely losing the draft. I'm burning a match with, you know, a quarter of a mile to go. And then I get kind of blown by here as everyone's starting their actual sprints. I try and catch onto the wheel. And this is where I start my sprint. I'm putting up 500 watts. But those guys in front of me, they just kind of have the momentum of passing me. They've got the draft, and I'm kind of stuck in this terrible spot where I'm pushing not a great sprint, but I'm trying to catch up as much as I can. I'm in third place, starting to claw them back. And, you know, as we get to the line, I just managed to scrape a third place finish.
Third. Whoa. Third place. 0.7 back. You know, pushed, wasted some energy there, so the legs weren't fresh for the final kick. Really only was able to put up 800 there. Maybe waited too long. They had drafting power-ups. Lost my sprint, got it back, but yeah, tough ride. Let's see. Gonna cool down here. Want to win, but third place is pretty good. So, yeah.
Thanks for watching another Zwift racing video. If you have any suggestions or comments, please feel free to let me know down below.